Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Tom, and welcome back to the NotoriousEDC podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by my dear friends over at Hitch and Timber, rethinking the way we carry the things we care about. Hitch and Timber handcrafted goods, providing solutions for your cluttered pockets since 2014, handcrafted in Colorado, USA, using ethically sourced materials. Check them out on Instagram at Hitch and Timber. That's all three words spelled out, or hitchandtimber.com for your everyday organizing needs. Love Hitch and Timber. Shout out to Hitch and Timber. And also thanks to the patrons for helping keep the wheels turning over here. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for all of your support. If you're not a patron, you can join. Link in my Instagram bio. And I got some fun stuff planned for the patrons that pledge. So check that out. But anyway, yes, today is Sunday, January 9th. It is absolutely freezing outside, and I just had a very hearty bowl of soup, which is always nice on a cold day. And I also had some oatmeal cookies, which my wife tricked me into liking. And I don't know about you guys, but there's like no greater disappointment in life than when you are like, wow, look at this delicious chocolate chip cookie. And this happens at work because we get catering. You know, you walk over to the old craft services table thinking that you're about to bite into a chocolate chip cookie, only to be completely shattered and disappointed by the reality of an oatmeal raisin cookie. Absolutely disgusting. I know it's a controversial topic and I don't mean to get political, but they're horrible. But my wife ordered these cookies from Fresh Direct. Let me pull up the name of these cookies because they're absolutely, they have the longest name of any cookie that's ever happened to exist in the world. Let me pull this up real quick. Let's see. Fresh Direct. Okay. They are called, Jesus, hold on a second here. Fresh Direct. They're called the Hudson's Gourmet Blonde Ambition Soft Baked Oatmeal Butterscotch Cookies. Wow, what a name. But they're pretty much only available here in the greater New York metropolitan region, I would say. So I don't know if you guys get Fresh Direct wherever you're at, but I think it's pretty much like Tri-State and Washington, D.C. But if you are in this area and you can get them, I'm going to go back on everything bad I ever said about oatmeal cookies. They're ridiculous. They're like a blondie, but like way more butter and way more sugar. They're insane. They're absolutely insane. So, and they're like $6 for 4. But honestly, I have such a sweet tooth, and if you break it in half, it's like more than enough. And it's just so rich. It's frightening. It's such a good cookie though. But anyway, enough DSA's dope snack announcements. Let's get into the EDC combo. By the way, since it is the first, basically 1 week into the new year, week and a half at this point, I pretty much failed on my New Year's resolution of not spending as much money on gear on day one. I was laughing at my buddy Luke's Instagram post, or he put a story up that was like, New Year's resolution, 11:59 p.m., don't buy more watches. 12:01. Thank you for your purchase. And that's pretty much what happened to me on the morning of the first, because I was editing the last podcast and I was hearing myself talk about the Leatherman Juice S2, and I just really wanted it. So I looked on eBay and I was like, I'm not paying $150 for one that looks like it fell out of a moving vehicle. It's not happening. And then I just went to Google and I hit the shopping tab and I found some on, North River Outdoors. I can't remember the name of the shop, but I bought 2 gray ones and now I'm like, whatever, I'm done. Like, that's all I need. Those are my 2. That's not my 2. That's my favorite small multi-tool. I love the size of that thing. If Victorinox Swiss Army made one that size, it would be phenomenal. But I like Leatherman too. And, they just discontinued it. So I bought 2 of them because now I have the red one at home. And now I'm going to get these 2 gray ones. So I'm going to rock the gray one. If something happens to that, I got a backup. And if something happens to that, I got the backup OG red one. And hopefully they'll send them to me. It's been a week or so and I still haven't got shipping email. So I'm going to give them a holler tomorrow and just say, hey guys. But I posted on Instagram on my story and a bunch of you guys were like super pumped and bought some. So I don't know if they had like 5 of them or if they had 50. I have no idea, but they sold out of them. And if you snoozed, you losed. And you're going to have to do a little more digging to find some. So, and hopefully they actually had some and it wasn't just like a weird thing that was just stuck on the back end of their system. So hopefully I'll get those too soon and that should be awesome. And also I was like thinking to myself, you know, there's only really 1 or 2 custom knives that I still really want. And those are from Enrique Pena and Brett Dowell. But yeah, I got lead on a dowel custom slip joint. And, you know, sometimes these things just happen. You know, what are you going to do? And this sound right here, that's the sound of money leaving my PayPal account. But I'm excited to have the knife. And you know what? It's like when your favorite sports team, if your favorite football team is like 4-0, 5-0, you're just waiting for them to lose so they can get it out of the way and not have that pressure of every week the announcers being like, well, this week is facing insurmountable pressure as they get closer to 10-0. It's like, no, just get the loss out of the way, break your New Year's resolution, and then just get on with your life because it doesn't matter. Just have fun and enjoy your hobby. You don't have to make all these fake rules. Just don't go crazy and don't end up having to sell your knife because you need a new refrigerator or whatever. But anyway, enough about that. Today is the history of the beer bomb and explaining a little bit about the beer. Well, not a little bit. I'm going to talk all about the beer bomb from beginning to now to the future and kind of explain to you guys like how did it even come to be? Those of you that are newer to my Instagram or to the EDC world, maybe you haven't seen it much and you just learned about it, or you don't even know what I'm talking about because if you found this podcast, you probably saw my Instagram, and in which case you've seen a million pictures of a beer bomb. So I'm assuming you know what it is if you're listening to this. But if you're not, beer bomb is a bottle opener / pocket tool. And I kind of get asked this at work sometimes when I work with people, and obviously they're not EDC people, and maybe I break one out to do something, or maybe twist maybe screw in my camera plate or whatever the case may be. Occasionally a little Topo Chico on set, which is always nice. So there's times when that happens and people are like, what you got there, dude? You okay? You know, they don't even know what they're looking at. So I have to explain it to them and then let them into, I'll crack the door usually. I don't like open it all the way wide to the secret life of the EDC world, which, like I mentioned, you know, previously, you can't really let it all out immediately. You have to let it trickle so people don't get nervous. Like, you can't be like, I've got X amount of knives, because then they're like, what? Why do you have that much? But, you know, then you find out they have 400 plants, and that's kind of just as weird, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever makes you happy, it's all good. We're starting to get a lot of plants too in this house. So one day at a time, you know? So how did it all start? So around 2016, I was about 1.5 years into the EDC world. And let me get these cookies off my screen. I can't even concentrate. About 2016, I was like 1.5 years into the EDC world, and there was a ton of bottle openers popping up. And I don't know, it's kind of like, they call it the zeitgeist, right? Is that the right term? Let me look that up. Zeitgeist definition. Defining spirit or mood of a particular period of history as shown by the ideas and beliefs of the time. Okay, I don't know if that really works, but it's like all these people were making these bottle openers, and a lot of them were animal faces and stuff like that, because the shape of the mouth is good to open bottles with. So I kind of saw that kicking around a bunch, and I just was thinking to myself, you know, why don't I come up with something and see if people will like it? Because I thought it would be a fun project. I was definitely cautious because I didn't know if anyone would buy it and would I be wasting money. And I don't know. It just felt risky at the time. I think I had maybe about 10,000 followers, but I was like, you know what? I think I could sell a bunch of these, like why not try? And if I lose money, I lose money. At least I tried. And I just wanted to make something cool and contribute to the EDC world in some small way and just do a fun project with my friend Nick. Shout out to Nicky Numbers. So yeah, I've known Nick for almost 20 years now. He's a mechanical engineer. He's a really, really smart guy. And I just felt like it was the best case scenario, having Nick have my back with this project. I knew he would do it justice and bring my terrible drawing, but half decent idea to life. So I basically started sketching a bunch of different concepts. Some of them were tattoo related because I have a bunch of tattoos. That's something I'm into. So I did like a skull, I did a rose, and I kept going back to the first drawing which I made, which was the beer bomb, which would end up becoming the beer bomb. And it was basically what you would see on old school military art, like on a plane or on a bomb. It would have, I think mostly on planes though, because I'm not a historian. I'm not a military historian, so don't quote me on that. But that's from what I've seen pictures and art of, just a shark face on the front of a plane. So I always thought that was cool. And I thought it would be really cool to do it in the shape of a bomb, with the fins and everything, because the fins could be used as a pry bar. And I thought it would just give more additional kind of functionality to the design, because I wanted to make something that had some cool little hidden features, So I drew this little sketch up and I made some notes for Nick. The first part would have a hole for one finger. The mouth would be the bottle opener. The eye would be for hex bits. The tail would be a scraper / pry bar. I don't know what a scraper was in my mind, but it's good for pulling up little nails and stuff like that. And there's a hole in a fin for what I wrote would be a key ring, but it was basically a lanyard hole. The one and the flat head of the nose was another little secret hidden kind of tool there too, because it was thin enough that you could use it to just do some light duty screwdriver work. And one thing which I didn't even realize at the time was this would end up, the fins would end up being sharp enough that you could actually score a box, like cut tape on a package. So it ended up being a pretty decent little box opener too. So that was kind of nice. But Nick really took the idea and ran with it. He made a couple different versions, a large version, and then the smaller version, which is what would become the beer bomb. So we got both of them 3D printed. He sent them over to me, and immediately I gravitated towards the smaller one. As you guys know by now, I love smaller knives and just like smaller gear in general. I don't know why I've always been drawn to like smaller stuff like that, but I don't know. It just feels better in your pocket. It doesn't take up as much space. It's not as bulky, etc. So it was a 1/4 inch thick. I knew I wanted to do it a 1/4 inch thick, and Nick pretty much nailed it from the get-go. Just everything that I wanted to do with it, it looked so sick off the bat. I think we tweaked the fins a little bit on the first design, but by the time it was 3D printed, it was really, really close. And then once I got the 3D print protos, it was not even a prototype really. It's like a proof of concept, I guess. I don't know. Is that the same thing? Who knows? But I wanted to make sure that 2 things could happen before we went further with the project. And that was 1, can it pop a bottle well? And 2, does the screwdriver, flathead nose piece work properly? So you obviously can't pop a bottle with a 3D printed anything. I don't think it's going to sustain for more than, I don't know if it could open one, let alone more than one. But you could tell that the angle of it worked well because the top part, like the top part of the mouth was sort of close to the middle of a bottle cap, and the bottom jaw, so to speak, looked like it was going to pop a bottle really well. So even though I couldn't actually do it, I felt really confident just kind of looking at it. And I actually have a picture of it in the blog section of my website. I have a little history tab, so you can kind of go there and see all these old pictures from 2016, which is really cool. And then I went to check the little nose portion, the flathead portion. And the thing that made sense to me was, if it's for light duty use, you're going to use it on screws around the house. So I went to the nearest light switch and I made sure that it worked, and it was a little bit too thick. So we made it a little thinner, and then it ended up being perfect after that. So we took it to the next step and we got an aluminum prototype made. I wanted to see what it would look like in a metallic form and how it felt in the pocket and all that stuff. So it wasn't a titanium prototype, but it was aluminum, and it was very close in feel. So, and it was crazy because I was like, wow, this is something I designed and it's actually in my hand. And it was just really like a trip, and I started to post it on Instagram, and people got excited about it, and it just got me fired up. So we ended up shopping around in the USA for machine shops. And I actually reached out to a few EDC machine shops, like guys that are familiar with EDC stuff, but it didn't really work out because we over designed this a little bit, like in terms of what you need to get it done. So a lot of times, if you're not familiar with machining, and I'm by no means an expert, I'm just designing this stuff, but to my knowledge, a lot of things can be water jetted or CNC'd, and it's kind of a little bit simpler. And with this, it needs to be CNC'd and also use a wire EDM. So it requires extra machinery and more machine time. And if you're doing a small quantity, it's really hard to get anyone to commit to the project because they don't want to waste time when they could be making money making more money doing simpler things with higher volumes. It's kind of like I was small potatoes to a lot of places, which I understood. And it was a little bit of a bummer, but it is what it is. So we found a place that would take the project. They were not an EDC place, but they made like 100 pieces and they bead blasted them. I don't really think they understood what bead blast I was after, because like 15 of them looked really, really bad, and they didn't even remake them. They just kind of sent them, and I ended up like throwing them in the garbage or something, but it was all good. I ended up doing a bunch of Cerakote on like one-off pieces through a guy named Josh at Razor's Edge. Shout out to Josh. Haven't talked to him in a while. Hope you're good if you ever hear this. And he did a great job. He did a few black pieces for me. And then the rest there was a couple OD green, I think, an Apocalypse green, a Blaze orange, a gold one, and a really bright red. And they came out really, really nice. And I don't remember if I lottoed them, or I think I auctioned them off back in the day. This is 2016 again, so this is a long time ago. My memory's a little bit foggy, but that's pretty cool that those are still floating around in the wild somewhere. And that means that there's probably like 60, maybe 65 OG beer bombs that are just the raw titanium kind of a look to it. So yeah, it's still crazy to see that stuff kind of pop up on Instagram and in the Facebook group once in a while. So I don't know. It still just blows my mind that people still have their beer bombs from 2016, So over the past few years until 2020, I would get a lot of DMs and people asking me when I'm going to make more. And I really want a beer bomb. I didn't even know about them in 2016. I just see them around, or I missed them in 2016, etc. And I just kind of never wanted to do it again because I have a full photo career and it's very time consuming. Obviously, it's, when you're doing your own business, you're working pretty much every minute you're awake, more or less. And I just didn't really want to do it unless I could commit to doing it 100%. So I just kind of put it off. And then in 2019, I got the itch and I reached out to Enrique Pena for some advice. Shout out to Enrique. And he connected me with David at Rique, who is an awesome dude. And he's a big, big knife fan. And, I've mentioned them before too. Rique makes, in my opinion, the best production knives on the planet. Like, their quality is phenomenal. And I just really love all the stuff they do. And I'm just happy and grateful that I can work with David, and he makes such a great product. So, and again, thanks to Enrique for connecting me with him, because I don't know if he would have taken the project on without Enrique's cosign. So I really am in debt to Enrique for this, for making this project happen. So shout out to Enrique. But I reached out to them in 2019. I just didn't really do anything with it for like a year because I just had other stuff going on and all that. And then I picked it back up at the top of 2020. I honestly don't even remember what happened. I was just looking through my emails just to prep for this episode. And I was like, Jesus, I just waited a year. I don't know what it was. I think I just wasn't really mentally ready to commit. So I didn't really push it too much. And, David's a busy guy. He's making knives nonstop. So it takes time to get things rolling and everything, But eventually in 2020, I was like, I'm ready to do this. Can we make it happen? And he's like, let's go. So I got a batch rolling and I was just waiting for the order. And I ended up kind of thinking like, let me just make one batch and see how it goes. If people dig it, then I'll keep doing it, I guess. If they don't dig it, then at least I got some back out into the world and I tried it and just see what happens, We actually made a couple little changes before we went into production with rique. And that's not really too much that you can see when you look real quick. But if you put an OG and a current beer bomb next to each other, you can see a couple small changes. The main one being the maker's mark on the fin. And sometimes people ask me, what is it? And I just kind of laugh because it's a very abstract thing that I made and it looks kind of like an N. I was sketching out N's and I just made a really chunky N. And then I just tweaked it a little bit so that it just ended up being these three shapes. So if you kind of squint and look fast, it looks kind of like an N, but I don't know. I didn't really get too hung up on a logo because at the end of the day, a logo is cool, but I wanted something that was easy to make in a small space and keeping in mind down the line. And I just thought to myself, you know what, if this goes good, who knows, maybe I'll make a knife one day and I want a maker's mark that's small and easy. And I just wanted to be able to put it on a small space with it looking really clean and legible. So hence this maker's mark was born. And if you look at where the fin connects to the tail, so to speak, you can see the old one has kind of a sharp V angle and the new one has a little bit of a softer curve, which makes it easier for machining. And I think it also just looks nicer. It just has more of a smooth line rather than a hard edge. So I think that's really cool, but it's all very, very subtle and you wouldn't even notice it unless you really analyze them right next to each other. But so after getting the first samples made, I was really happy with how they came out and it was time to hit the green light. So the first batch that I did was plain stonewashed titanium and black PVD stonewashed titanium. I also did a bronze anno exclusive with Urban EDC Supply, so we did a little drop through them. I also sent a bunch to get Cerakoted at Titanium Finishing Company, which Casey introed me to them. So shout out to Casey Lynch. Obviously, you guys know who he is. And I actually ended up meeting Eddie, who is one of the people that sprays the Cerakote over there. And Eddie has just recently started OEG, which is One-Eyed Ghost. And he's making some really cool stuff like Nux and pry bars. And they look really, really, really good. So you guys should follow him, OEGEDC on Instagram. But anyway, yeah. So Eddie was spraying my beer bombs for me. And I did Hunter Orange, a darker OD green, and we did this really cool city camo, which was like white with gray and black kind of on top of it. And I wanted to do like a full 3 or 4 color camo pattern, but the face of the beer bomb is just a little too small to mask it properly, so it just won't look right. So that was kind of a compromise, and I like how it came out, but I really prefer the splatter look, which we're going to get to in a little bit. And then after all that stuff, I reached out to John Brown, aka Scoopy Loops, and we did a little collab set together. We did 2 sets of a beer bomb with a matching bead. So the first one was this really nice green finish, anodized finish with a little blue kind of undertones. And it came with a matching hybrid bead, titanium. And then the other one, which is one of the most unique beer bombs, if not the most unique beer bomb that's ever been done, was what I called thermal cam finish, but I think John calls it color vomit. So we did one of those along with a matching titanium hybrid bead, and we lottoed those off. Those were really cool. And I don't know who has either of these anymore, but I feel like someone adopted puppies from me and I never saw them again. I just kind of want to see them in the wild again, but it is what it is, you know? And then in the top of 2021, I was a little late for a charity raffle. I was trying to do it in December, but life gets really crazy for me in December with work, and it's just the end of the year is just bananas for me. So I ended up doing my little charity raffle at the top of the year 2021 for an amazing organization called the Seeing Eye. They pair seeing eye dogs with blind people, and they're located in central Jersey. And we raised like $2,500 or something like that dollars for them. And I put in some money myself, and I just really was so happy to support them, because, you know, you end up finding out that it costs like 60 grand to pair one dog with a person. And that, you know, that takes care of the dog and training and transportation and lodging for the person getting the dog. So it's really expensive. And now they actually told me it was 70 grand now in 2022. So man, it's nothing to sneeze at. So every little dollar that we can get over there is really helpful. So, and I'm glad I can kind of spread the word and use the EDC community for good, which is really, really rewarding to me, and I think super important to give back. So to me, it just makes me really happy that I can even affect somebody in a small way like this. So I got to do another one this year at the top of the year, but we'll get into that in a minute. So 2021 came and we did more beer bombs. I did a matte black along with a different kind of stonewash black that was like a lighter stonewash, and that's actually my favorite finish for the stonewash black PVD at this point. I also did a Bead Blast, which we had a little miscommunication about the Bead Blast. I wanted it to look like a dark Chris Reeve Sebenza scale, but it ended up coming out really light. But I was actually really happy with it anyway, because I thought it looked really good. So I just rolled with it and called it Satin Blast, because it had like a satin kind of a look to it. It's really nice. It's all good. You gotta take the lemons and make some lemonade. No big deal. And then more stonewashed titanium. And then for the Cerakote, we went with FDE and Northern Lights. I forget what the actual color is called that the Northern Lights was, but man, that color is absolutely insane in person. It's really hard to photograph, I will say, but it has this kind of like blue look to it. And then in the light, it turns kind of like a sea foamy green, like a warm green. It's really, really cool. So I was really happy with that. And I also got some brass samples in 1/4 inch and decided that I would like to do something with them rather than have them just sit in a drawer. So I hit up Ben Crine on a whim, and I'd never really I don't think I even spoke to Ben before that. So he was just like, I'm in, let's go. So let's do a collab. So we did a hammered brass. He hammered the front and did like a satin finish on the back, like a brushed kind of a look. And it ended up looking really, really nice. So I lottoed a few of them off, and I still see a couple of those pop up. And I think Ben antiqued 2 of them. So they looked like a little bit darker with some brass black, which ended up looking really nice. And then, a bunch more colors. We did more Cerakote. So we did clay, which is like a muted orange, supreme red, a lighter OD green, root beer, which is a color that Casey did some of his AAPs in, and it was like one of my favorite Cerakote colors. So I asked him for his blessing to also name it root beer, and he said no problem. So shout out to Casey yet again. But man, that's one of my favorites, and I still have a bunch of those we need to lotto off. And then we went into a little bit more unique looking ones, 2 battle worn finishes. One that I kind of came up with, which is what I call the Liberty finish, which is mint and copper. And then one my buddy Christian, shout out to Christian, came up with, which is the Killer Bee finish. So it's like yellow with black, and the black is kind of scratched off, and it just looks like apocalyptic. It looks really, really cool. I really love how those came out. And then Trapper Keeper, shout out to Everyday Gary. So Gary suggested in the Facebook group when I was taking some opinions on what I should do for Cerakote colors, and he goes, do a Trapper Keeper finish. So I looked up like 90s Trapper Keepers. I saw a lot of purple and kind of teal and pink and stuff like that. So I picked out 3 colors from Cerakote's website and just hope for the best, really, because sometimes you don't know how this stuff's going to actually look in person because pictures are never really perfect on the internet. But man, Eddie just absolutely killed it. This colorway came out so sick, and it's probably the one I've gotten the most DMs about out of anything I've ever done ever. So I honestly didn't think anyone would even like it because I was like, that's kind of bright. Because I'm usually into the more dark muted stuff, but I should have known that it was going to be popular based on all the Scoopy loops that, John does so much bright stuff and people go crazy for it. I should have known better, I should have known that people were going to love it. So I only have a few of these, but I think I think it'll be even cooler that way because they're super limited. So, and then the last one was kind of a game time decision. I had like 10 pieces left. So I just said, let's do like a navy with a light gray and a dark gray splatter. And it'll be like kind of like a nighttime vibe. Like, I don't know, just kind of like, to me, it was like a cityscape kind of a look, just like the city camo, but different, it's kind of like a dusk navy. I don't know. It just looked really cool. And that one is actually my favorite that we've ever done in terms of more of the unique Cerakote jobs. So I'm really happy with that. And I get some questions about the Cerakote and is it limited and all that stuff. And it's like, it's not specifically limited. Like I'm not doing 5 pieces and never doing it again. Usually, if I do that, I'll explicitly say it. But I think like with OD green and red, people love these colors so much that it's just kind of, I want to offer them in the future. And I want to be able to make them easier to get and stuff like that, rather than just doing 10 at a time or 20 at a time or something like that. So I want to do more pieces and make it a little bit more accessible, So in early 2021, I was trying to think of different ways that I could expand the offering of the beer bomb. And I was kind of thinking maybe I'll make a thicker one, but I was like, I don't know if anyone would want it. And then someone mentioned it in the Facebook group and I was like, okay, it's time. So, especially with like the Psy Pops, you see the thick ones and they just look so good. So I decided to reach back out to Nick and pick his brain about it. And I told him I wanted a 0.375 inch thick version. So it's like almost 50% thicker than the current 1/4 inch version. And it might be exactly, I don't know. I'm not, start talking about decimals and fractions, you lost me. You know what I mean? I went to summer school 3 times, guys. I have no idea. But it ended up looking really good. I just was like, man, this is it. So we ended up getting some samples made through Rique, of course. And I just was like so happy when I got the samples because they feel so comfortable in your hand with that little bit of extra purchase area. And I think that they pop bottles better because there's more of a little bit more of a surface area for it. So I really, really like them. And I think going with the NotoriousEDC theme of like the Biggie reference, it just naturally occurred to me to call them the Big Papas. So it just hit me one day and I was like, these are Big Papas. So I love the name. I love the way they look. I love the way they feel. So I just feel really good about the Big Papas in general. And having some brass ones made, some samples, and some titanium ones, it was really nice because I could kind of see like, wow, this brass is really heavy. I think they're like 5 ounces or something. It's kind of crazy. Being able to brass black them and tumble them myself, I think that is like one of the coolest looking finishes for the beer bomb, in my opinion. It's like really, really nice. The brass is cool tumbled by itself, but man, when you put the brass black on it and you give it that antique look, it's really, really cool. So I love it. And there's a bunch of those coming this year and I'm just waiting on the delivery pretty much. I will say there's a little controversy with the nose on the Big Papas because when David sent me the sample, he actually made the nose thicker because he was like, I think it looks better thicker. So I was like, all right. And I ended up looking at it. I was kind of torn because you lose the functionality of the flathead screwdriver, but it just looks way better. It really looked odd when it was super thin. But at the end of the day, if you lose that functionality of the flathead screwdriver, sorry, all my G-Shocks are about to go off because it's the top of the hour. I got to turn that off. if you lose that functionality, it's not the end of the world because it's a bottle opener first. You still have the eye, you still have the pry, you still have the sharp fin so you can open boxes. There's still other things that it does. And at the end of the day, a lot of these pocket tools are more collection pieces, just like a lot of EDC gear is in general. So I kind of figured like I just wanted it to be aesthetically pleasing when it came down to that decision. So I just went with the thicker version. By the way, one of the dope collabs that I did last year in 2021 was with Justin Koch. He did up one of the brass ones and he made it just look insane. And we did a lotto with that and a matching bead. And also he did a 1/4 inch thick titanium one, stamped it, anodized it, insane fade on it, just such a cool finish, and also a matching bead. So that was really awesome. I hope to do some more collabs with Justin because that was really fun and people seem to really enjoy it. So I'm just really excited to get more collabs going, and I have a lot of plans for that, and there's some things in the works already. So I don't really like to announce stuff until it's happening because things take time, people get busy, and sometimes things get put on pause for like a year. So I don't want to say something's coming out soon when it's not, but when it gets closer, I have some fun collabs to announce. So I think you guys will want to stay tuned for that. Also, I just received, and you probably saw this on the gram and in the group, the G10 and micarta pieces. So 1/4 inch micarta, solid micarta, and the big papas in G10, black and jade. So I'm really excited about those because they give a more affordable version, also a lightweight version that can go anywhere. Man, they are just so fun. I think they're going to be a really fun collector piece. Obviously, I don't think they're going to be able to open a bottle, but again, it's a collector piece. It's something really cool that you can carry in your pocket, just a little morale item. And, maybe there's another use for it. You could figure that out on your own, but I'm really excited about those and the prospect of doing more of those. Also, I have plans to do more exotic materials in the future. Like I would love to do Zirc and Damascus and black Damascus and Damasteel. Like there's so much stuff that I want to do. And I'm also working on some other couple of variants that I think you guys are going to like. But again, I don't want to announce anything until it's closer to production. But there's 2 versions that I'm working on that I think are going to be really, really fun. And there's going to be a lot of excitement in the group and on Instagram about it, I hope, because I just want to make stuff that I get excited about. And then I feel like other people will be excited too. Like I don't want to make stuff just to make it. I want to make stuff that I think is really sick. I think there's a lot to look forward to. I'm so blown away and absolutely floored and humbled by the response to the beer bombs. I genuinely mean that. Like I never thought in a million years I would make something that would sell out in seconds every time I put it up. It's crazy to me. And I really appreciate you guys so much. And again, doing the charity work for the Seeing Eye has been so rewarding and so fulfilling. And again, this year we raised $4,000. I put in $500 of my own. So I donated $4,500 on behalf of the group. Hopefully next year we can hit $5,000 because then we can name a dog. That would be the most gangster shit ever. I would really be pumped on that. We got to come up with a good name for the pooch. Again, I just can't thank you guys enough for the support and just the interest in my stuff, and just building a community around it it's just been really crazy to me. So the last thing I wanted to say is I get a lot of DMs and messages about how can I get a beer bomb. So as of right now, the way that I'm running things is by doing drops on my website. So the best thing you can do is sign up for the mailing list on my website, check out my Instagram and just pay attention to announcements there, or join the Facebook group. And I really recommend joining the Facebook group because there's a lot of stuff going on there that doesn't happen anywhere else, i.e. Cerakote lottos and charity events and stuff like that. B, you'll meet a lot of cool people. I know a lot of you guys are newer to EDC, like first year, second year. So it's a really good way to meet people and kind of learn the ropes, because Facebook has its own set of like etiquette and rules with lottos and stuff like that. So it's really nice to get in there and and make friends, honestly, because you're going to meet like-minded people that are into the same gear as you. And it's just a different world than Instagram. To me, the Facebook community, like all the EDC Facebook stuff, has more of an intimate vibe, because people are communicating way more and more directly and all that stuff, rather than just making one post and dipping out for the day and just reading some comments. It's a little bit more back and forth, I think. So I don't know. To me, it just seems like a more intimate vibe. And I think that's kind of nice for making friends in the EDC world and stuff like that. So what else is there to say? I think I covered everything about the beer bombs. But 2022 is going to be nuts if everything goes the way I want it to. And I have another really big announcement, which I'm not prepared to make yet, but I will soon. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll find out. But I hope that you guys are pumped to see what I have coming out this year. I'm going full bore, and I don't know if a full bore is even a phrase, but I'm gonna rock with it. I'm going full bore with everything, and I'm just trying to put out cool stuff that I think you guys will really dig. And I'm just so excited for this year and what's to come. And I just wanted to shout out Joseph Vero, who's been absolutely an amazing friend to lean on. And he's been so generous with his time and just helping me with a lot of stuff. And I'm just so appreciative. And the EDC community never ceases to amaze me with people's generosity and just how cool everybody is. So I just thank you all for all the support. And I just hope that I can keep making exciting things for you. And I have so much in the works. So I hope you enjoyed listening to the history of the beer bomb and a little bit of the future of what's to come. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you all. Please join the Facebook group. The link is in my bio on my Instagram page. And please, for the love of God, answer the questions to the best of your ability. If you're new to EDC and you don't have 3 favorite makers, just say that. It's all good. I love when new people come into the group because we were all new at one point. So it's nice to have a warm welcome, and we're just all friends here. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.